Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. I'm just going to do the Mishnah again, the beginning of Perek Kirah. Maybe even we should do the Gemorrah Schnell. Just we had a big hefsek and Kiddush is a kua b'kasha b'gavot. There's an oven and there's kasha. Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis.
Oh,
Top
go
line.
back.
Yeah. Yeah. Kiddush is a kua b'kasha b'gavot. An oven that they heated it up, b'kasha b'gavot. Noisim aleh tafshel. You're allowed to put tafshel in it. Begefs of eitzim, if it's wood, something is substantial, lo yitin achikun fashitin efer, until he takes out the coals or he puts a blech over it. Whatever it is in Shabbos, you can only put hot water there. Never put a tafshel. You can put hot water and also hot food. Shama said, you could take it off, but you're never allowed to put it back. Food on Shabbos, hot food on the fire, even if there's a blech. You're allowed to be machzir. So if you remember, did the Gemara. We'll try to go through the Gemara very, very fast.
If you serve in the top of a blech, you don't move it from the blech.
The Basil said, "Af machzirim." You're allowed to even return it if there's a blech. You buy low. The Yeshiva asked, "Hi lo yitin." When the Mishnah said in the beginning that you have to have a blech, and otherwise lo yitin, you're not allowed to put it. Lo yachziru means you're not allowed to return the food. Avalishas masham, but to leave it till you're allowed to. Even though there is no blech. Umani chananye, and this is chanan. So before we continue, the chanan is a machlokes chananye chacham. Chachamim said that whatever it is, you always have to have a blech. I don't care she'ir chazar, you always need to have a blech. Chananya is mekel. Chananya says that you only need a blech for chazor. For she'ir, you don't need a blech. The Mishnah, the Gemara has an agenda to make the Mishnah sound like Chananya. Why? Because as we learned the Tosfos says that the Gemara really holds that Chananya was right. The halacha is like Chananya. The Gemara wants to be Mekel. So the Gemara wants to squeeze Chananya into our Mishnah. The Tanya, we learned in the Braisa Chananya said, Kol shehu k'Michael ben Dursoi. As long as it was already cooked, the amount of Michael ben Dusoy, which is a shaila, if it's a half cook or a third cook. As long as it was cooked, Michael ben Dusoy, you're allowed to leave it on top of the Kirah. Even though there's no blech. Oh. Oi. So that's one way of learning our Mishnah. That the Mishnah said when you need to have a blech was only talking about lahachze, but lahashois, you don't need a blech. Or maybe the Mishnah is like Chacham, even for Shahiyah, you go to Vekotam in. If there's a blech, it's good. If there's no blech, there's no show, no deal. You're not allowed to leave it. Vekoshkin lahachze. The Gemara Toshma, the Tony Trey Bobby Masnisim. We learned two cases in our Mishnah. First case was B'Shamay Mechamen Avalei Tavshel. B'Silam Mechamen Vit Tavshel. B'Shamay Nekla Avalei Machzir. B'Silam Af Machzir. Iyamr Bishlam. If you're going to tell me our Mishnah is like Chachamim Lechumra, we can read the Mishnah very nicely. Kiddush is a kubakasha b'gavav mashinala. Gefes of eitzim loyash. Achid neif until you make a blech. My mashal, what are you allowed to? Bishoya. B'shem echem v'leitavshu. B'shem echem v'leitavshu. Keichin the pligi b'lahashis. Just like there was a machlokes. L'gabi shehiyah pligi navi b'lahazir. Machlokes also b'chazori. So if you learn the Mishnah like Chachamim, everything flows very nicely. But if our Mishnah is talking about Chazorah, then only Chazorah needs a blech. So Hochiktani, how are you going to read it? Kiddush is called Bekasha, you're allowed to be machzer. You're not allowed to return until you put a blech. My machzirin. What are you allowed to return? B'shamayim mecham v'lei tafshel, b'silim af tafshel, cham v'tafshel. Shamayim neitel v'lei machzirin, b'silim af machzirin. So normally, you're repeating in the Sefer the Mishnah the same as the Reisha. You're saying over the same thing twice. Again, if the Mishnah is Chachamim, so Two things need a blech. Shehiyah, if you want to leave it there, you need a blech. And also if you want to return it, which is a worst case, you also need a blech. So the beginning of the mission is talking about Shehiyah, the end of the mission is talking about Chazorah. Everything flows nicely. But if you say the halach is like Hananya, and if you want a Shehiyah, you don't need a blech. So you only need a blech for Chazorah. So the beginning of the Mishnah says they need a blech in order to do Chazorah. And then the end of the Mishnah says they need a blech to do Chazorah. You said twice the same thing. So the Gemara says, no, I'll give you a dreidel. I'll give you an answer, which is a little funny, but the Gemara wants to say even a funny answer, a B, to make the Mishnah sound like Chananya. That the blech is only for Chazorah, but for Shehiyah, you don't need a blech. Suri Mechsere, the Mishnah is missing a few words. And this is the way you're supposed to learn it. Kiddush is called Bekasha Begvava. Machzim Tafshe. Begef is a veitzim lo yachzir. Achigur peshit neseifer. That you need to have a blech. Now is the extra words that the Mishnah is missing. Avo lishois. But if you want to do Shehiyah, you don't need a blech. Mine mashin. What can you do Shehiyah for? Shami says only hot water. Selam come v'tafshe. Then the Mishnah at the end says, oh, by the way, this thing that I told you, there could be chazorah. Not everyone agrees with this. I can never do chazorah. As you can see, it's a dreidel in the Mishnah. It's a real dreidel. But the Gemara wants, like we said, that remember that Toises we learned a month ago before, 3 weeks ago, last time we learned this Gemara. Mishum the Kaimelon Kechananya, Kamoy Shafarish Be'ezes Hashem Yisborich. Dochi Klupim Masnisin Kevasei. Even though the Mishnah acknowledged, the Gemara acknowledges that it's a Shmeidel, dreidel. But the Gemara wants the Mishnah to be like Chananya. The Gemara wants the Mishnah to be like Chananya. So the Gemara is willing to make a Chasuri Mechseda. And to say in the beginning of the Mishnah, we're talking about two cases. You need a Blech for Chazorah, but you don't need a Blech for Shehiyah. And then the Mishnah Gemara remembered, oh, by the way, you should know this thing of Chazorah is a Machlok B'Shem Vasil, which is a Doichik, but that's okay.
This Hanania ben Akasha?
I don't know. I don't know. Okay, now this is what we're holding from last time. The only reason I went over the Gemara is because we did such a break for 3 weeks, so but this is where we're holding. Zog the Gemara. Now we did Chazorah.
That's it.
Now we're doing Shehi. We're holding like 10 lines from the top. Av Machzirim Dat Tochma. So there's 3 people. Reb Chelba, the name of Reb Chomya, and the name of Rav. Lo Yishano El Al Gaba. This Mishnah is only talking on top of the oven. Aval Toicha in the oven also.
Also what?
Also to put it. So now we're going to learn it according to Rashi, which is a little bit of a harder way of learning the Gemara and the words of the Gemara. But it's Rashi, and we should learn Gemara like Rashi. And then we'll look at Toitza if we have time. So before we go inside, I want to explain Rashi Shita, the Makshin and the Tartzen. The way Rashi learns, it doesn't flow well in the words of the Gemara, but the logic flows very easy, in a way. If you say, I don't need a blech, so the Gemara says, I understand why you're telling me a difference on top and inside. There's no blech. There's no blech. So if you're going to put it mamish inside, in the coals, it doesn't make sense. It's like it's not good. But if you're going to tell me, I don't kashiyah, you always need a blech. Always have to have a blech. If I have a blech, what difference does it make? What's the difference inside outside? Have a blech.
I thought the issue was a Kirah that's mice of hevel, because it's the shape of the cone. It's very hot.
No, that's a Tana. Tana.
Yeah,
because Tana is the one that goes. Kirah is the box too.
So it's not mice of hevel.
Yeah, it's not an extra hot. But still, the principle of the way Rashi learns it is that if you hold like that, like Chananya, so there is a case where there's no blech, the Hainu b'shehiyah. So I understand why Rav would say there's a difference. But if you're telling me you always need to have a blech, who cares Teichal Gaba? You always need a blech. Who cares where you put it? Toichel Gaba, you need a blech. The truth is, it's a very good taina. The Gemara answers, you know what? Because Chazorah is on Shabbos and it's so chumradik, so even if there's a blech, there's a difference of Toichel Gaba. So, so they really, the Tartzen said that the Makshan's assumption was wrong. It's a little bit like,
Just she says slave. Also nothing. Not she,
no, it's
not
yeah.
nothing.
But this is the component, but this is the Pshat and Rashi. Toshma, Domer Chelva, Omer Choma, Bargunya, Marav, Loishno, El Al Gaba. The whole Mishnah is talking about Al Gaba. Avala Toich, if you want to put it inside the oven, forget about it. It's awesome. If you want to say that our Mishnah that said of the Blech is Lahazit. It's the point of the Rashi you have to add now, the main point. But if it's Shehiyah, you never need a blech. So if Lagabi, there's a case where you never need a blech. I understand why there's a difference between Toich and Al Gaba. Ela I Amar, if you're going to tell me, Lishois Tanan, that our Mishnah is talking about Shehiyah, it means you always need to have a blech. If you always need a blech, if you always need a blech,
What's the difference?
what's the difference? You need a blech anyway. What do you care? Is going to put it b'toicha? So according to Rashi, the answer is no. Still, when it comes to Chazorah, we're machmir. Misovar Reb Chelba Reishikoi, and he's talking in the case of Shehiyah, a Sefer Koi, and he was Beisil Loima Af Machzirin, and Taka, even though there's a blech, but Lagabi Chazorah, it's very chumradik, and there's a reason to be machmir and say Latoich is us. A little bit the Makshan the Tatzim sich nicht voneinander gerät as I good. The deaf was talking to the blind.
They're talking about two different cases.
Yeah, but okay. But this is the way Rashi learns. Again, in a way, the way Rashi learns, the Makshan made a better argument than the Tarz. Let's learn it in Rashi, in the small lines, not from the small lines, the top of the small lines. But Shehiyah, I don't need a blech. Like the Gemara said before, so you'd have to add words in our Mishnah. The Mishnah is chaser. But if Kelba should use the lishas al shena grufakoi, and if Kelba is talking when it's mutter to not have a blech because of Shehiyah. So Hainu the shoni ben toichel agabe. Now I see why there's a difference in toichel agabe. The chimashe la toicha the shena grufa matmin mamish beremetz. He's putting it mamish beremetz. It's like Shehiyah b'davar mois of hello. It's terrible. A blech, yeah, blech, na blech. Aliyah met lishas tanan. But if you're going to say that also for Shehiyah, you need to have a blech, that also for Shehiyah, you must have a blech. Even the grufa meboid yoim who noisten la toicha, mali toicha, mali gaba. If it's, if you're going to hold that you always need to have a blech, so who cares if it's toicha al gaba? Rashi's concept way is learning. Yeah, lishas. That in other words, if you're telling me that also lishas, you need to have a blech. So because it's Friday and it's so the answer is misavat areisha koi achigre fasefe koi daida bechazora avareisha lahashasu ben toicha ben gab beshori. That's the way Rashi learns the Gemara. So again,
He has to make a shtum with the Mishnah. Is that what he's trying
yeah, Rashi has to make it shtem. Tosis is going to have a more kunzik pshat, but it doesn't. Okay, let's leave it with Rashi pshat and let's skip the Tosis the Violet because I want to get moving a little bit on the sugya. Zog die Gemara weiter. Toshma, a new Toshma. Base Kiris and Masimas. Two Kiris that are next to each other. Achas Gruf of Toma, Bach Shena Gruf of Enektoma. One is Gruf of Toma, one is not Gruf of Toma. Mashan al Gabi Gruf of Toma, Vei Mashan al Shena Gruf of Toma. You're allowed to leave pots where there's a blech, you're not allowed to leave pots where there's no blech. Now, this Braisa is going to be very, very difficult to twist. It says very clearly, Mashin al gabi grufa ktuma, ve'ein mashin al she'ena grufa ve'ena ktuma.
Well, you have to say that both of them one next to the
And
other.
the Braisa is nervous that the Gemorrah, the Braisa overheard that the Gemorrah is working overtime to make everything sound like Hananya. So the Braisa made it very clear. Very, very clear. Mashin, al gabi grufa ktuma, ve'ein mashin al she'ena grufa ve'ena ktuma. Made it very clear. Kann ich verdrehen the Braisa. Mein Maschin, Bishama Emrim, V'loi Klum. Besil Emrim Chama V'loi Tafsha. Okay, or Divraka Lo Yachze.
What the Chama say below Klum?
You can't, forget it. You have to eat cold stuff in Shabbos. Very funny, according to Divrei Meir. These are the words that are Meir. Yehuda Omer, Yehuda, basically our mission is really to be Yehuda. Yehuda Omer, Bishama Emrim Chama V'loi Tafsha. Besil Emrim Chama V'loi Tafsha, which is exactly our mission. Shama Emrim V'loi Klum V'loi Machzir. Besil Emrim Machzir. Our mission is really learns the Machlokes of Shabbos is exactly like Rabbi Yehuda. The Meir has everything one notch up and very chumradik. If you're going to say our Mishnah is like Chachamim, that Lagabishi, you need to have Grufik Torah. That's Nisimani, Rabbi Yehuda. At least our Mishnah goes like Rabbi Yehuda. In the Braisa said very clearly that Shehiyah must have a blech, and then the rest, the Machlokes of Bisham and both Machlokes can work out perfect. Okay, so at least our Mishnah is Shitas Rabbi Yehuda in these two Machlokes and Bisham. And if you're going to say like Hananya, that our Mishnah said that you need a blech only for lahachas, but lahashas you don't need a blech. Says Samami, Lo Rabbi Yehuda, but let me. Our Mishnah can't go like anyone in this brayso. Rabbi Meir, if it's Rabbi Meir, B'Shamai doesn't work, and B'Sil doesn't work. Kasel B'Shamai B'Choda, or B'Sil B'Tarti. It doesn't work. Not Lo B'Shamai, not Lo B'Sil. Why point the Gemara it says Kasel B'Shamai B'Choda, or B'Sil B'Tarti? To read the Rashi, it doesn't work. Bottom line, we'll look at Rashi in a second. It doesn't work. B'Shamai it ends up being Ein Kasha, B'Sil it's Tzvei Kasha. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Rabbi Yehuda, but if you say Rabbi Yehuda, still, according to you, Chananya, something doesn't work. Kasha Grufik Tumah. Because Rabbi Yehuda said that you always must have Grufik Tumah. And the Chananya says, no, that if it's Shehiyah, you don't have to have Grufik Tumah. So the Gemara says, Emes, I'll tell you, the Taka mission is talking about you need a Balach only Lahazah. Balahashas, no need of a Balach. The Tana de Dan, Savalak Rabbi Yehuda B'Choda, Palak B'Choda. Our Mishnah holds like Rabbi Yehuda on one issue and disagrees on another issue. Savalak Rabbi Yehuda B'Choda B'Chanim B'Tavshel V'Naitel Magzir. Palak B'Choda, the Tana de Dan, according to our Mishnah, Savalishes, Avu B'Sheina Gore B'Choda. There are Tana holds like Chananya that Shehiyah you don't need to have a blech. But Yehuda Saval Balishas Nami Gore B'Chotum in. If you have Gore B'Chotum, you're good. You're allowed to be shoyah. If you don't go to B'Chotum loy, it's not good. You're not allowed to be shoyah. Wow. The Gemara is working overtime to bubble wrap Chananya. Gemara is working overtime to bubble wrap Chananya. The Demis is, it's not the worst doichik in the world. Because there's two ways of learning what was the machloikas of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And the Meir, obviously, our Mishnah wasn't Shittas Remei. It was Shittas Rabbi Yehuda. Now, besides how you learn the Machlokes of Bisham Beis Hillel, the question is, this thing that you need a blech is only for Chazor or also for Shehiyah? So you could say, okay, listen, we agree with Rabbi Yehuda on one issue and we disagree on the other issue. But you hear the Makshan over here. Look, I see an Abraisa and I see there's two ways of learning the Machlokes, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah obviously not going to fit like Rabbi Meir. It's a fit Rabbi Yehuda. So that's it. So and Rabbi Yehuda obviously held like the problem against Hananya that you need to have a blech also for Shehiyah. So why wouldn't you learn that our Mishnah? Why would you decide that our Mishnah is the third Tanya? There's Rabbi Meir, there's Rabbi Yehuda. So make our Mishnah fit this way or that way. If it's not going to fit here, it's going to fit here. So, but the Gemara is like again that Tosis. The Gemara is gendik. It has it in against Chachama. The Gemara has it in against Chacham. They want to learn. This is really a big part. At the end of the sugi is going to be a big machlokes rishonim. It's going to come down halacha l'maisa when we get to summation of Gimel. Unfortunately, the next 2 weeks are a little bit funny because tomorrow we can't learn because it's nickel, and next week Tuesday we can't learn because it's going to be it's going to be it'll be a sort of a tavis. It's very hard. I know already from years. Even it's a short tonus. I tried it many times. That's just the way it is. So whatever. But when we get to the end of the sugya, you'll see that really there's a split between the Rishonim. If we pass like Hananya, but you see the argument of Tosfos that the Gemara time and again is going to do every doichik in the world to make our Mishnah sound like Hananya. Why? Why would the Gemara work overtime to make a Mishnah sound like Hananya if the halacha was not like Hananya? That's why a lot of Rishonim hold taka that the halacha is like Hananya. That's the basis
that she is mutter.
That she is mutter, even though it's in a group of any ktuma, even without a blech. And you see it. This is already 2 nekudas here in the Gemara, which is a huge doichik. You have here a braisa. Is the way the Meir learns the machlokes of the Shammai and Rabbi Yehuda learned it. Obviously, our mission doesn't fit Rabbi Meir, so it fits perfectly with Rabbi Yehuda. But Rabbi Yehuda says, by the way, this whole machlokes it assumes that also by shehiyah you must have a blech. So the Gemara says, nah, there's probably a third Tana out there that the Braisa forgot to mention, and that Braisa holds like Rabbi Yehuda, Gabi the machlokes of what's the machlokes b'sham and b'zilol, but shehiyah doesn't need to have a blech. Come on, it's a little bit of a doichik. Okay, and then with the Chassam Sefer Gezak, Rav Doichik Emes, that sometimes when the Chassam Sefer said Rav Doichik Emes, did he mean when me and you say a pshat, and it's a doichik pshat, it's emes? We meant that sometimes you learn Marsha, Amaram Shif, that's how
This is halacha. You're allowed to she or not. It's you have the
That's what Tosfos is saying.
Not so simple.
No, that's how this short Tosfos is the key. And when you see a Gemara is working overtime to make Hananya work in the Mishnah, and you're going to have to say one doichik and another doichik, Ishma may know that that's the halacha. Because the Bnei Yeshiva knew that the halacha is like Hananya, and they didn't want the halacha to be neged the Stam Mishnah. A child opens up the Mishnah Shabbos, and he's learning a Stam Mishnah. And now you're going to tell him, the Rebbe is going to tell him, oh, no, but we don't pass him this way. Better that the Rebbe is going to tell him that there is Achsuri Mechsere, and there's a this, and there's a this, and there's a this. But with a lot of explanation, this Mishnah is really Chananya and Nazoy Da'aloch. Okay, weiter. Sagt die Gemara, Ibai Lahu. Bnei Yeshiva asked a Shai, Mao Lismach Bo, Smicha. You need to have a blech or not. So say, this Shaila could be a Chananya also.
You're leading it on the oven.
Not on the oven, next to the oven. So say you could be Gabi Chazar also. The Shaila could be Chananya.
It's not touching the oven.
It's not touching the oven.
Yeah, it's 11.
He didn't go into it yet. Yatzalat, it's not Yatzalat. That's going to be already another Shaila.
When you say lismoch is to keep it warm, or
Keep it warm.
not, you're not mevashel nothing,
Yeah.
and it's not water, not the food.
Yeah. Because once you're gonna, as soon as you're getting into this is all that Abon B'chal. The whole Perek, I have to say, very funny because it's a very, very difficult Perek, and it's all Gzeres that Abon. Yeah, because Shem Yechat Begacholim. But the real, when you're learning Hilchos Shabbos, Semeration and Gimel, no Dalad, no Hey, no Vav, no Zayin, no Ches, no Tes, all there's a very long, difficult Simona. It all comes down to Gzeres that Abon. Yeah, blech, not blech. It's all Gzeres that Abon. It's not the Yeraisa. And whatever is really the Yeraisa, which is going to be later in the Perek, a little few lines here and a few lines there, that's buried at the end of Hilchos Shabbos and Siman Shin Yud Ches, that's Taka the Yeraisa issues. And that's Taka a very important siman to learn. That's Hashem is bought it. When we finish and we're going to get to Siman Shin Yud Ches, that's Taka. It's funny. And a lot of things in Shabbos you see, it's the Mahalach. The first Perek is all about Teitzah V'Achnosa. The Tosfos calls it Malacha Kala. That Malacha Gerua. Sorry, the Malacha Gerua. That it's not. It's a Malacha Gerua. Why did we start with Malacha Gerua? It's funny. Why did we start with Malacha Gerua? Yeah. Huh? No, because that's where we start. We start with with something which is l'chayra the weakest thing, and that's where we start. Second Perek from Madlikin. So it's like at the end of the Perek is about what's Benish Moshes and the Taka. It's because it's only a gavurcha of lighting Shabbos candles. Shabbos candles? That's how you start in Masechah Shabbos with Shabbos candles. It's a din derabbanan. Shabbos candles are Hanukkah candles, right? They're both intertwined. But yeah, Bameh Madlikin is the two sugis of Shabbos candles, Hanukkah candles, and also the Vaila was a big sugi about the menorah in the base of Mikdash, the candles. It was one daf, the Tosfos, and that leads us into the Shemus menorah. So that's Taka de Yudaisa. But anyway, it's only a gav. It's a gav Neidus Shabbos and Neidus Hanukkah. Very funny. We're starting. It's very very funny. Elamai. Because that's shkof. It's very where does the kedusha Shabbos come from, or where does it start, and how does Shabbos come in? Because the susiogla, if you think about it, the truth is a susiogla Torah. We start with the siyog. We start with what brings in the kedusha Shabbos. The Rebbe the Rebbe had one of the 10 of time of the Rebbe that even though the Rebbe said it many, many, many times. People have complaints against me why I made Dafka 10 campaigns, just 613 mitzvahs. The Rebbe said, you make another 10 campaigns besides my 10 campaigns. Well, what do you care that I made 10 campaigns? Yeah, I just said, okay, but Beini Ubeincha is not true. Not true, but I'm saying it's only is the Rebbe gehalten that these 10 things are the Yisoid. This why the Gemorrah says that Yidden had the Yiddishkeit was getting very schwach, and there were 3 Nevi'im. One is a Midan Ashloishes, and one is a Midan Al Chachadis, and one is a Midan Bochavakuk v'Midan Alachas Tzadik v'Menos Yechia. So what's the pshat? Chavakuk said, "Nah, you don't have to keep Judaism. Just come for Kol Nidre, give you a check, and you're a good Jew. Chas v'Sholem. Chas v'Sholem. Just that because Judaism was weak in the days of Chavakuk, so he said that the Rabbi say Tzadik v'Menos Yechia. That the Yid is to work very hard on this one thing, and that's going to be a gate to get you to everything else." And the same thing was the other to Nevi'im. The Rebbe saw that the Neida Shabbos Kodesh is a gate. So why take it? It's a mitzvah derabon. It's not a mitzvah deraisa. No, and the Rabbanon made this thing mishum shloim beisah. Elamai. But Beruchnius, there is Chassidus that the mitzvahs Arevim Alai Divrei Sefer Yotzei Initial Torah. The Rabban, the mitzvahs the Rabbanon are negate a very very deep chord. Like spoke about this many times. In a relationship, maybe if a woman tell her husband, could you please do me this and that? But there is certain nekudas if she has to tell him they're married already 30 years. She has to remind him when her birthday is, and maybe it's kedai to buy a present.
Guilty.
So nicht good. It's a bitter finster. So the Abisha told the Yidden, these are the 39 malachas, not allowed to do Shabbos. I have to tell you to light a candle before Shabbos. If I lay verstehen, that kommt on Shabbos, that you light a candle. Huh? Yeah, everything. The whole Shabbos starts with this. The bottom line is that the Rebbe saw that this was one of the 10 things that will. And one of the things that Rebbe Taka said was that that this is going to be makar of thousands of people. In the beginning, there were 2 stories that the Rebbe said that he got a letter. He said that there was a Rav in one of the states of the United States of America, and he's a Talmid Chochem and is a Hatat Asach Miles. But his wife wrote to me a letter. The Rebbe said, his wife wrote to me a letter. That he's a huge community, but unfortunately, there's no Talmud Torah in that community. There's Talmud Torah, there's no Jewish school. So the kid goes to public school. And she came Friday night. And she noticed that it's Friday night after she lights the candle. Would do it till then her husband goes to shul to daven Kabbalah Shabbos. The daughter goes up to her bedroom. She never thought a long time. She went upstairs and she checked. Daughter goes into her room, turns on the light, and she does her homework. Shoyed b'shever. And she was thinking she should tell her husband about it. So we're not going to say machlokes on this. Punkt then the Rebbe came out with campaign of a Shabbos candle. So she wrote to the Rebbe that she decided she's going to take the Rebbe's challenge. Next week, she told her daughter that Lubavitcher Rebbe came with a beautiful campaign to light Shabbos candles. And she bought her a beautiful candelabra, and she bought her box of candles. And the daughter lit, and she made the bracha. And that Shabbos, she did not go up to her bedroom. She felt this is Shabbos. She didn't say her daughter doesn't know Gornish, no Musa. She never told her husband Gornish. She took this trick. The girl lit the candle, and the Mela, she didn't go up to her room. Everything got resolved. And
The father did not ask why the extra candle.
Ken says it and shvetted itself.
Oh, okay.
And that's what she wrote to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said another letter he got from a woman. She said that her husband comes home from work 6 o'clock. Winter, summer, comes home 6 o'clock. So she always used to light the candle when he comes home. He should be there when he lights the candle. So, 6 months of the year she was being Ma'anig Shabbos, 6 months of the year, like one of Islam. She was being Machal Shabbos. She said just now, Chabad came out with a campaign, and with everything they give out these flyers. Ad Yom they give out with a calendar for the year, which was the time of Adlokas Nedis. And in the beginning of the flyer, it explains that it's also to light after sunset. So she realized she did a terrible mistake. Baruch Hashem, she's very happy. From now on, she's doing the right thing. Doesn't matter when her husband comes home from work, she lights it in the right time. And the Rebbe said, because what happened was at that time, one of the tainas against Lubavitch was that Yotza Efseda, Schori Befseda, Yotza Schori Befseda. They said that if you're going to get people to light Shabbos candles, so they're going to light, and if they're not Shomer Torah mitzvahs, they don't know what it means, sunset, not sunset. So they might light, and they'll be already Shabbos. So Yotza Schori Befseda. They never said that it's not true. That they was very into a lot of the details of the campaign, and that's Taka. One of the things they ever wanted was that they should. That's why they printed Ad Yom. They have Mrs. Sternberg who came here to speak to the women. She was all excited coming to the house to see, because she had a few meetings with them. So she was so happy to come in the dining room and see. So they never wanted Ad Yom. That's what they do. They print from the campaign of Neshek, they print a thing with the Zmanim. Today they also sometimes make it with the thing to put on the refrigerator, and they make they pop it straight on the refrigerator. But they still have it. They give it out. Gabonim, we see from here, Ner Shabbos is the Rabbanon, and yet this is the Masechta Heptzachon mit Ner Shabbos Kodesh. Gaburch, I had a little bit of a tzorechiyun in my mind. The Gemorrah says, I'm saying the second Perek in Masech Shabbos later, and then we're gonna have Kirah, which is also derabonon, and then again it's going to be all the Perokim, and B'mebahim is also derabonon, B'meish is also derabonon. Oh, Klal Gadol Amar B'Shabbos, it's going to be Lametes Malachos of Shabbos. 6 Perokim leading up is all the Rabbonans. The Rabbonon. Of course, that's the way it is. That's the way Ayid. It works. It's Chavivim Alai Divrei Seifrim. So we say Ner Shabbos Ner Chanukah, Ner Shabbos Kodim. Why? Because Shalom Bayis. Shalom Bayis is the first thing. Like it's mentioned Shabbos. The Rebbe said, if you have Shalom Bayis, then you have the koyach to illuminate the world around you. But if you don't have Shalom Bayis in the house, then you don't have the koyach to illuminate the world around you. It has to start.
Ner Shabbos and
Ner Shabbos Ner Chanukah. He has enough money to buy one or the other. What should he do?
Money. I thought which one lighting first.
No. Ner Shabbos Ner Chanukah is a choice to buy this or that. So Ner Shabbos Kodim Mishum Shalom Beisa. Mishum Shalom Beisa. So okay. What happens? So the poskim ask, what happens if he can afford 10 candles? It's the 8th night of Hanukkah and it's Shabbos. I'm just looking at so you need, if you're Mahadrim and Mahadrin, you need to have 9 candles, right? 8 plus the Shabbos. So should you give your wife 1 candle? She usually lights 9 candles. So listen, at the end of life, what can I tell you? We can't afford 10 candles. I'm giving you 1 candle, and I'll light 9 candles. I could be Mahadrim and Mahadrim. Or let her light 9 candles, like she always lights, and I should light 1 candle. Which one? So,
but the whole purpose of the Shamash is so that you shouldn't have Hana'ah from the name of Hanukkah.
But you have already Shabbos one. Okay, discount the 9. I just hooked it up. I have the numbers equal. You can afford 9. So you're right. So the Magen Avraham says that Shabbos, when it comes to Shabbos, 1 candle is the mitzvah. 1 candle is the mitzvah. The rest, who cares about the rest? But Lagabe Chanukah, there's Mahadrim and Mahadrim. That's what the Magen Avraham paskins. That's the way the Mishnah Berurah paskins. But based on the Rebbe's campaign, the Rebbe didn't see it that way. The Rebbe said the biggest kasha against my campaign is the Kuntas Achron, where the Alter Rebbe says that Lagabe Ner Shabbos, 1 candle is the mitzvah. And we never find the Mahadrin to have more than 1 candle. Shenka Machanaka, there is Mahadrin. And that's the second Kuntas Achron, which we learned.
It doesn't use the word Mahadrin, but it does have the thing about Shomor V'Zohor.
Where?
No, when Rabbi Shimon came out of the cave, where
we saw him walking with Hadassah. Yeah. But so the Rebbe said, Lepoil, the minig Beis Harav, the Rebbe said, was that the little girls light, and obviously, and they all made brachas, and that was the minig Beis Harav in the altar of his house, and that was the minig Beis Harav by the Sfas Emes, and that was the minig Beis Harav by the Chaim Voloshner, and that was the minig Beis Harav by the Chaim Briske. And there was a minig Beis Harav by the Bel Zerabim, by the Boba Rebbe. The Rebbe said the reason why it stopped was in the wartime, especially the First World War. There was Machsen and Chaylev, and it became very, very because every government wanted to use a Chaylev for their war effort, and it became very expensive. And those didn't have synthetic Chaylev then, so therefore candles became crazy expensive. So therefore it went down. So it was in this battle by a lot of people the minute that girls do it. So now that we consider that extra candles in Shabbos is Nesefes Oidev is something we're making separate brachas. So I'm not sure what the halacha should be lagabe that. Okay.
Why the Neir Shabbos says what you made out, not from this, not from this. Come to Hanukkah, you could light from anything. You go down by Hanukkah, this. Ela, the Choshech is still dark, no matter what.
We need to have some light.
Shabbos no, but Hanukkah.
Oh, by the way, today the Chumash from today has a shaykhs to Chanukah. You see, the day after Zos Chanukah, the Chumash today it says twice base pari. It says twice base pari, and Rashi says the first time when it says base pari, it says it doesn't mean mamish base pari. It means the family of pari. The second time when it says base pari, it means literally his house. So in the Ikris Sechom, he has such a fancy pshat that your head goes spinning to figure out why Rashi says it. But I think the pshat is very simple. The first time it says that Yosef kicked everyone out of his palace because he didn't want people to be there the Mitzrim to stand there when he's going to reveal himself to his brothers. So he kicked everyone. He said, then he said he started to cry and he said, Ani Yosef oid avichai. Then it says, Vakoil nishma beis that is, he cried, Vakoil nishma beis pari. So I think the pshat is that the pshat, a child is going to say, do you think Pari and Yosef lived in two townhouses? They didn't live in townhouses, Pari and Yosef. Pari lived in a big palace looking like Buckingham Palace, and Yosef lived in a palace that looked like the White House, Mashu Kazeh. Not sure, like the White House before King Trump is going to make his additions or after. Kaponim like the White House. So in Pshat, if Yosef is crying, to say that the coil of Yosef's crying went all the way to the house of Paru,
It's hard.
in Pshat is hard to say. But later, when it says that everyone was talking, wasn't the coil of his crying. The coil was Lema Bo Ache Yosef. That Yosef's brothers came to town. CBS News was reporting it when they put on the radio or the television in Paru's house. That's why the first time he says base means doesn't mean base man, which means anche base. The second time when it says base, it means basic.
It's fake news.
But that's a shaykhs to Chanukah. Why? Because it says neit ishu base, and Rashi says base means anche basic. But when one of the shurim we had the Chanukah, I mentioned that the Pnei Yeshua says that there's a remez here. Pnei Yeshua says neit ishu base that because the mitzvah is like, it's not a chiyuv on the gavra, it's not a chiyuv on the gufa of the person, it's like on that. It's not like mitzvahs too. That's why I was talking the other day when I shlogged up it's Eliezer. It's not like tefillin. You can't give a shliach and you'll put on tefillin for me. You have to put some mitzvah gufa. Anything that's a mitzvah gufa, you can't send the shliach to do. For their Chanukah, you could have your wife do it for you. You can have your daughter do it for you. So that's the remes that the Yeshua says, Beisai means Beisai Mamish. But you have it the two pshatim. Rashi pshat is Neirishu Beisai means Anshe Beis, the family. The Yeshua says Beisai means Beisai Mamish, the house. The hesed to the two pshatim that Rashi says sometimes Beisai means Kipshute Beisai, and sometimes Beisai means Anshe Beisai. And over here we see it means both. That's the connection of the.
We'll have a big house, but not Shalom Bayis. So
they have no Anshe Beisai. They have only Beisai.
Yes.
Okay, David shall help them take that it should be Shalom Beisai Odif, that we should have take a strong Shalom Beisai, which comes through Nedis Shabbos, and through that we'll have a koyach to be also Pirsum Enisa Pesach Beisai Bachutz.
Right.
Go from here. I'll finish it. Yeah.
How old
Thank
is
you very
fell
much.
into the?
Huh?
How old is fell into the Kirah?
Really?
Huh?
One hour of this, like so.
Well, how did we fall into this?
Yeah.
Pashas because the Gemorrah is going through things that a Yid is doing before Shabbos.
I don't know.
The Rebbetzin it's in Shabbos Licht. The man like the top. I'm saying Pnimi is because these are the Inyonim. Bringt in the Kedushas Shabbos.
Something in the one that.
Well, if you want to go, you're not running. You're out.